Where groupthink is most powerful is in close-knit groups. Just think about family. A lot of pressure to kind of go along with the family, with your church, okay, with your core group of friends. You value them and their opinions of you. So the closer knit the group is, the more influential groupthink is. Now, if you're in this group and you don't hardly even know anybody and they're saying you ought to do this, it'd be much easier to say, no, I'm not, than if it's people that you're surrounded by people that you really care about. And in proud, self-righteous groups, where the group can't make a mistake. There are groups like that. We're the top. We're the best. What we do is right. What the rest of the world does is wrong. Here we are. And groupthink tends to control them. Cults can be identified like this. A cult kind of has this same aspect. We're it. We matter and nobody else does. You listen to us. And then in group with overconfidence in a leader or leaders. And this is something you have to be careful with, even with good leaders. I'm thinking about pastors. I think a good, godly, wise pastor, you should have confidence in them. But they're not God. Okay? And I think it's fine to be influenced by that person. But what happens in a lot of these situations is the leader speaks and everybody goes, wow, I'm awestruck. And so they all just kind of go along with the leader because they have great confidence in the leader. Now, a leader that has that kind of confidence bestowed upon them by whoever it is, let's stay with the pastor analogy here, if the congregation has a lot of respect and confidence in that person, that leader, that pastor better be very wise and unselfish and be more interested in leading them to follow Christ than leading them to follow me as the pastor. Paul said, follow me. What was the rest of that statement? As I follow Christ. See, every leader, every Christian leader should have that mark. You follow me if I follow Christ and when I follow Christ. If you ever catch me not following Christ, you follow Christ. Forget me. A leader should always make sure, a Christian leader should always make sure that their congregation knows that Christ is the supreme that we're to follow. And if you study the scriptures on hypocrisy, on false teachers, in the book of Timothy, in 1st and 2nd Timothy, you study it. It's how it describes them. They're never wrong. They're not humble. And I think one of the greatest marks of a person that you should not follow is their attitude. If that person is this arrogant, I'm always right, I can never apologize, kind of a person that controls everybody, you better run from them. Okay? Just better run from them. Enough said, I guess. Just read 1st and 2nd Timothy if you don't believe it. Pick up the characteristics that are listed there of a false teacher. And it describes their attitude as much as anything. Okay? Now, groupthink and what we call de-individuation, meaning you lose being an individual. I guess we talk about getting lost in the crowd or the peer pressure. It says being in a group can lead to an increase in impulsive and deviant acts. In other words, if you're in a group and everybody starts doing something, groupthink and de-individuation says that you are more likely, or human beings are more likely, to participate in something that they would never do otherwise, but they get caught up in the group. It can loosen moral restraints. Again, doing things that you'd never do otherwise. 2 factors of groupthink that lead to this de-individuation, where I'm not an individual anymore. I'm a part of the group. The presence of others, just having a lot of people around, or, interestingly, people wearing uniforms. Or if all of you are in a uniform, it tends to make you think of yourself as a part of the group rather than as an individual. That's the concept behind uniforms. It's the arguments behind uniforms in Christian schools and now in public schools. They want you to think more as the group. That's the concept between our military and our police wearing uniforms. They're the unit. Okay? This is this cohesive group. They stick together. They better. And or wearing disguises. Some of the revolutions that are taking place over in the Middle East, a lot of times you see them, they've got their faces covered. They want to be anonymous. You know, this is a group of anonymous people, not a specific individual. And when this takes place, people feel less accountable for their actions. Okay? Because an individual will less likely be singled out and blamed. I'm a part of this group. I can probably get away with this. Now, if it's just me doing it, they'll probably catch me. And the presence of others lowers self-awareness, thereby shifting people's attention away from their moral standards. Now, another term we're going to look at here is conformity. Here's the definition of it. It's a change in a person's behavior or opinion as a result of pressure from a person or group. Now, that pressure can be real. People could be saying, "Oh, come on, do this. Come on, come on. What's the matter with you, chicken? What's the matter, you coward? Come on, let's go." Okay? That's real pressure. Or it could be imagined. I think they're not going to like me if I don't do this. And you just feel this pressure. You assume there's going to be this disfavor. Now, is conformity good or bad? I don't think it is necessarily all good or all bad. You knew that, didn't you? And but conformity in itself is not the strongest. It's definitely not the strongest way to build your moral values. You need to internalize what you really believe. Because if you don't, if you build it from the church or the group around you, then it's not going to be as strong as when it's you. It's internalized in you. And because what happens when the church changes? I've seen that happen. I saw a guy that was converted. He lived a pretty rough life prior to his conversion. He got saved in a church, a conservative church, and these were the people that loved him. This is where he got saved. He believed everything they believed. It was wonderful. Anything you say, I'm good to go. I'm on. Well, then he started thinking. People started questioning him. Why do you believe that? He couldn't answer it. He had not internalized or thought it through in his own. And then he started throwing everything out. He just changed and completely went back the other way. And a few years later I met him, and he had kind of come back. Only said, I came back now studying the issues scripturally and working with Christians where nobody pressured me to do. Now the church, there's no indication the church intended or even pressured him to do that. Maybe they did, but he never told me that. He just loved it. And that's not a bad thing. He conformed because these people loved him. And he found Christ there. But at some point, he had to internalize it. And it had to become what he believed. What factors lead to groupthink? A highly cohesive group. The group is valued and attractive. In other words, people value membership. It's probably a little bit of the psychology behind you have to join Sam's Club. They want you to put a value on it. You know, I am a member. You know, and but a group that's highly cohesive or highly valued and attractive. If there's a group of people you want to belong to, You know, if there's a group of people on campus or in your high school when you were there, and it was like, they're kind of the popular people, I want to be a part of that group, then people that are in that group don't want to get left out. And so they go along with the group because they value it. They value membership in it. It could be a church. A person could go along with groupthink in a church and agree with everything because maybe the church would disapprove of them if they questioned anything in the church. And I'm glad I got in a church that I valued, but they allowed me to ask questions. I wore those poor people out. I asked so many questions, and they never acted impatient with me. They probably were, but they never acted like it. And but I think if they had disapproved, I don't know what would have happened. They would have disapproved of me asking questions. I'm not sure. I think I know what would have happened. It might not have been good because I was too independent.